Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Cleanliness Decree. Some time ago, break room cleanliness went downhill. It started off small. Cutlery was left in the sink instead of being washed. Coffee rings remained on the tables. It took a turn to tragedy when microwave manners stopped. Suddenly, lasagna remains and gravy stains happened every day. Fortunately, Helen was on the case. Strategically placed posters and a polite email encouraged everyone to clean up after themselves. Yet the microwave madness continued. There was a second wave of reminders, a little more passive-aggressive. Then the chili incident. The whole microwave interior, door to floor, all around, was left coated in a thin layer of exploded chili. Understandably, Helen was not happy. The newest directive was swift and punitive. We were to leave the microwave spotless. Anyone caught desecrating it would face disciplinary action. Nothing more was specified, just a vague threat. The manager, equally tired of the melodrama and mess, and perhaps a little frightened of Helen, signed off on it. Helen was delighted and spent a few hours happily telling everyone that this would surely fix the problem and restore peace to the broken break room. It seemed a little too draconian for my tastes. The next day, I brought in stir-fry leftovers. I used the microwave and, shame on me, a bit of sauce-coated broccoli slipped away. I took out the spinning plate and gave it the best possible treatment. A hot, bubbly bath in the sink, gently scrubbed down with a sponge. The inside of the microwave door also had some debris stuck on it. I wiped that away, then the rest for good measure. The top too, in case of dust. I used toothpicks to clear vents and scrape gunk from the buttons. After half an hour, the appliance looked new. Well, those 30 minutes were also during the lunch period, which meant a good number of co-workers stopped in to use the microwave. I had to stop a few times to let someone use it, which restarted the cleaning. Everyone understood that since microwave cleanliness was now the most important thing in the office, this was a necessary task to be completed immediately. Everyone except the manager. He wasn't too happy that I took so long doing something that was far outside my job description, instead of actual work. The decree was dropped. A new system was established with rotating cleaning duties, with everyone equally responsible for managing mess. Cleanliness and peace were restored. The next story is called A Good Payday. I have always been interested in electronics and did a lot of reading and studying on my own. I was very good at buying things at spot meets and repairing them and reselling them as a teen. For my first real paying job, a friend of my mom knew a guy who ran a place that supplied answering machines to businesses. They were new tech back at that point in time. She said he was desperate for someone who could fix them, as he had once put issues spilling over the shelves. So I went to see him. It was an interesting meeting. A middle-aged businessman and me, 15 or so. We kind of eye each other, and he asked me if I can fix them. I was pretty sure I could. And when he pulled out the service manuals for them, he had a couple that was based on the same base, I was quite sure. So he asked me what I wanted for an hour. And I was used to getting $3 an hour for watching the kiddo next door on occasion, so I asked for that. He pondered that for a minute and made me an offer I could not refuse. $10, cash, for each one I fix. I quickly agreed to stop by after school the next day with my tools to dig in. The next day I show up, and he takes me in the back, and sure enough, he has a couple of big sets of industrial shelves overflowing with these things. I start pulling them off and looking at them. He gives me a smile and drifts off and leaves me to it. I quickly discovered this guy had no tech skills whatsoever. Most of them had a brainlessly simple problem. The outgoing message was kept on a big loose loop of tape with a metallic splice at the end that went past two posts. That told the thing the tape had gone all the way around and to stop and turn on the cassette recorder for the incoming message. The splices and the posts got dirty and did not make good contact, and the tape would just go on forever. About 3 minutes with some alcohol and a Q-tip cleaning those parts as well as the other things in the tape path not only had them going again but sounding like new. I cleaned the front panels up with some spray cleaner and hit the wooden case with some lemon pledge and they would look like new. I spent more time carefully coiling up the power cords than repairing them, but when I was done, they looked and sounded like new. The owner came back to check on me a couple of hours later to see if I was going to be able to crank one out for him that night. I pointed to a pile of 5 or so and told him to check them out. His eyes just about popped out of his head. I got nearly 10 done a night for a while. It did slow down a bit once I got the easy ones knocked out, but I just kept picking the low-hanging fruit and learning more and more about them and getting deeper and deeper into them. He also had units coming in all the time, so I did still have some easy ones mixed in with the bunch. I thought he was going to soil himself when we settled up at the end of the first week. I had spent like 3 afternoons there and got nearly 30 of them fixed. It was a really good payday. He was not super happy with our agreement, but he had proposed it, and he had someone who was getting them fixed, so he was cornered into honoring it. It was not lost on him that he could have been paying me like $12 a night, and I would have been happy with that, but he thought he would get the better of me. The last story is called HOA Gets Punished. This happened several years ago and is a multi-year long story. We installed cameras in front of our home that were looking at our vehicles. Part of the camera angles did overlook parts of 2 neighbors' properties, one backyard and one side yard. The cameras were battery operated and had a function where you could gray out areas that you didn't want to film. When motion occurred in the grayed out areas, the cameras would not be activated to film. The neighbors' entire properties and several bushes on our property were grayed out. We did this when installing them. One of the neighbors was a friend and had no issues with this whatsoever. We showed her the camera angle. She said she didn't care whether or not we grayed out that area. We still left it grayed out over battery life concerns. The other neighbor's name was Karen. Karen was on the HOA board and, as you can imagine, we didn't get along with Karen or the HOA board. We told Karen about the camera and showed her the grayed out areas at the same time that we told our friendly neighbor about it. It was simply an for your interest conversation. We are not on friendly terms. Not an asking permission conversation. She told us to take the cameras down immediately, or we would regret it. About a week after we hung the camera up, we got a notice from our HOA that we were violating the bylaws. The bylaw in question? A nuisance to your neighbor's bylaw. There wasn't a specific bylaw preventing the placement of cameras, so this is all they could find to try to punish us. We responded with a letter detailing how we were not violating any bylaws or laws in general, and asked them to cease and desist. We all know how these stories go though. They did not cease, and they did not desist. The first response: the HOA has the right to enforce these bylaws. Try to stop us if you think you can. These types of responses were, unfortunately, quite common from the sport. We entered this battle with one goal in mind: to cost them as much money and time as possible. The HOA hired a lawyer specifically to fight us. To my knowledge, this has not happened to any other residents. In the following 4 months, we ended up costing the HOA over $4,000 in lawyers' fees fighting this battle. For reference, the entire HOA income was around $25,000 a year. When it came time for our official HOA hearing over the matter, we had successfully postponed it, thanks to an attorney friend, 3 separate times. There were over 100 back and forth emails between the HOA attorney and ourselves. Each one of those emails was a 15-minute expense for the HOA, and I was happy to follow up a follow-up question with another follow-up question if it meant the HOA attorney was going to keep billing them. We didn't actually want to take this battle to court, so we ended up removing the cameras on the day of the hearing. The HOA decided in the hearing that we were guilty, surprise surprise, of violating the bylaw. They couldn't fine us, as the bylaws don't allow a fine until after a hearing has been held, and the cameras were already removed. In the end, the punishment was a sternly written piece of paper on the attorney's letterhead, delivered via certified mail. It stated that we were not allowed to place a camera on our home that had the potential to invade our neighbor's privacy. Keep in mind, the letter specifically stated the camera could not be placed on our home. We left the cameras off of the home for about 4 months, until the annual HOA meeting. You should have seen the look on their faces when I asked them to explain the $4,000 line item for attorney's fees that simply stated, title searches, attorney fees. The board actually tried to hide the fact that they spent $4,000 trying to fight us over a couple of cameras by putting the fees in as title searches. Needless to say, that meeting did not go well for them. About half of them lost their positions on the board. The other half, including Karen unfortunately, remained on the board. About a week after the annual meeting, we installed new cameras, facing the same direction as the prior cameras. Only this time we installed a post in the ground and mounted the cameras to that post. The admonishment we received after the hearing specifically stated that we were not allowed to install cameras on our home. It said nothing about putting them on a post. They did send a letter to try to tell us to remove the cameras, but a sternly worded response indicating that we were prepared to fight them actually worked this time around. I guess they didn't want to spend another $4,000 fighting us. We didn't receive any follow-up responses, and the cameras on the post are still installed to this day, over 2 years and running strong. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.